Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Look here. Tim has got him a job working in the school building as a rock man. A rock man is just a custodian, like a janitor in the school. That's what a rock man is in the penitentiary. You just clean up the area, keep everything neat, and keep all the toilet paper and stuff like that stocked up and all of that, right? So that's what he's doing at the prison, at the school. And he sees a lot of different things. He's gotten to know a lot of the guys that live in the same pod that he lives in with the gang leader and all this and that, right? So one day while he's in the hallway, he sees these booty bandits and they dip off into the restroom, right? And in the restroom, it's like stalls, right? And you know, back in school, in high school, where you had the stalls where, you know, the door, it wouldn't go all the way down to the ground, to the floor. You know, you'd be able to see the person's legs, or you can look over the top and you can see them sitting or standing in there, right? That's the same way the stalls are in here. So you could see somebody if they were in there. You could tell also if you could see more than one person that would be in that particular stall, right? So one day, he's cleaning up and he's going up and down the hallway and he hears these sounds, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. He hears these sounds. So he gets over by the water fountain and he looks over and he sees a couple of people that are standing in this particular stall, and he says to himself, he said, oh my goodness. So he goes the other way, he goes down the hallway and he sweeps and he stays on that other end of the hallway because he does not want to see what it is he thinks is going on. He don't want to get in nobody's business because the gang leader has taught him to mind your business, period, point blank. So that's what he does. He goes to the other end of the hallway, but when he's pushing the push broom, coming back down that way of the hallway, he sees a guy that he's gotten familiar with, and it's one of the gang leader's brothers. He sees him, and he looks at him, he speaks to him, and the gang leader's friend, or one of his brothers, he speaks back. And Tim keeps going, and then he sees this other guy that's coming out of the stall. And he looks around, not trying to be nosy, but he looks around to see if he sees anybody else. And he doesn't, and he remembers only two people that were down there, and they both happen to be in the same stall. And now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were doing anything, right? Because a lot of times, you know, people go in there and smoke, you know what I'm saying, and do things like that or whatever the case may be. They might even sneak a phone down so they can both be in a uniform, because that might explain why they had this sound coming out of it, right? But it didn't make sense to Tim. He was confused. He was like, I know what I heard, but this can't be, because I've heard them talk against that. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. And lo and behold, the dude that's coming out of there, he's a bandit. So that means that, wait a minute, he can't be true. Tim is baffled. It can't be true. This can't be happening. So now he's throwed off. He's throwed off. See, but here's the thing. The gang leader's brother don't know that Tim was in the hallway. He don't know that Tim heard and saw and starting to piece this thing together. He don't know. And Tim gonna make sure he don't ever find out, because he ain't gonna say a thing about it. Not one word. Not one word. But look here, we back in the pod. And Tim is walking around in the pod. You know, you walk laps in the pod, right? He walking laps in the pod, but the gang leader and some of the brothers are sitting at the table and the conversation is taking place. Somebody is accusing this particular brother of engaging in activities he ain't got no business engaging in, right? Because that's a no-no. Now, Tim is walking these laps, and he's hearing this conversation take place, you know, little bits and pieces of it as he walks by. But because he knows who they're talking about, it's easy to put the story together, right? And now the conversation, the debate, the meeting is getting heated. It's getting heated, and everybody's like, man, if he doing that, off with his head, blase skip it, and we ain't finna play no game, and all this and that. Y'all know how he is about that. And then you got some of them saying, if we can't prove it, we can't be listening to what no people saying about this, that, and the third. Why do we care what people are saying? And all of these different opinions are coming out and all this and that, and Tim is walking these laps. And he could see the distress on the gang leader's face, because he's trying to figure out what to do. He wants to make the right call. So later on that afternoon, you know, Tim, he makes these burritos, you know what I'm saying? Real nice burritos and whatnot. And this particular afternoon, he breaks bread with Tim. So him and Tim sitting at the table. You know, Tim, like, he played them checkers real good, right? So he's sitting at the table, eating burritos, playing checkers against the gang leader, right? And the gang leader asked me, he said, man, have you ever seen anything in that hallway taking place? And Tim tells him, nope. Fast as he can get it out, nope, never seen a thing. Never seen a thing. He said, man, I need you to keep your eyes open for me, man. And if you see anything going on in that hallway with anybody. Now, the gang leader didn't put a name on it. He just said with anybody that represent what I represent, let me know. Now, Tim tells him, yeah. But he ain't got no intention on telling him nothing. He ain't finna tell him nothing. But he's spooked because what if he finds out that I know? Or what if he finds out if I see something and I didn't tell him? Then what? My whole arrangement is tossed up. He said, what do I do then? This is what he's thinking to himself. So he says to the gang, he said, look, what if I do see something, then what's going to happen to me? And the gang leader told him, look, won't nobody know, it'll be between me and you. He said, but I got to deal with the issue as it is. He said, but you won't say nothing about me? He was like, no. He said, well, how will you be able to listen to what I'm saying and not bring my name up? So the gang leader looks at him and laughs. He said, why are you asking all of these questions? He said, just do what I asked you to do. Because when you're in charge like that, look here, you get used to telling people to do this and do that. You ain't got time to be worrying about what they think and how they feel and all this and that, right? But he indulged him. And he said, look, man, when I have a problem, I use other people to help me figure out what's the best thing to do and how to solve that problem. You work that hallway. A lot of stuff goes on in that hallway. You going to be my eyes and ears in that hallway, and ain't nobody going to put their hands on you, even if I did tell them that you saw it. Now, Tim listened to that, but he's no fool. He did not believe not one word of that. Not one freaking word of that. Not one word. So here's the thing. Time goes on, months go by. Tim doesn't see anything. He doesn't see anything. So, lo and behold, stuff always happening in the penitentiary. The gang leader Sally gets in trouble. He get caught with some drugs coming out of the VG, so he ends up getting locked up, right? And the gang leader cell is open. And Tim is having a problem with his cell, and he wants to move out, so he asked the gang leader, could he move in with him? So the gang leader said, hold up. Let me check. You know what I'm saying? To make sure my cell is not coming back. Because the gang leader was still a little unsure if Tim wasn't really gay or not. You understand what I'm saying? He really wasn't 100% solid on that. Because, you know, like Tim was, you know, he kind of like feminine type dude. You understand what I'm saying? So he was still a little apprehensive about letting him move in. But anyway, he found out his cell was not going to be coming back out on the compound anytime soon, and his cell was open, and plus this dude, you know what I'm saying, is paying him, and he really just wanted a break from some of the brothers and all this and that, right? So he allowed him reluctantly to move in with him. And now when he moves in with him, now all kinds of stuff start happening. All kinds of stuff start happening. See, these are the crosses that I'm about to tell you about to get put in the game, right? Especially when somebody know that the heat is on, and when them hound dogs is at you, and they nipping at your heels, you got to find a way to distract them. You got to find a way to throw them off the scent and send them in another direction. And the best direction to send a hound dog is at the people that's gunning at you. You understand what I'm saying? So, here we go. The rumors started to float. Now, you remember the brother that got caught? Well, he ain't got caught. But Tim saw him in the stall with somebody else, right? He put that together after he saw him come out because wasn't nobody else in the hallway. You remember that brother, right? They're on him. They're trying to figure out if he's messing around, you know what I'm saying, with these dudes, right? So he started to spread these rumors. Now, this is what's weird. He used the same individuals. Listen to me now. He used the same individuals that he was getting down with. And you know what I'm talking about when I say get down, right? He used the same individuals that he was getting down with to spread the rumors around about Tim being gay. Now, listen to me. I don't care what a person does with their life. That's between them and the Most High. You feel me? I got enough stuff going on in my life to be, I ain't got time to be worrying about what somebody else does. You understand what I'm saying? But I know in the penitentiary, that's high stakes right there. That could be dangerous territory. So now, The rumors are starting to float. The gang leader's in the cell with a boy. Nah. Let me tell you something. That's not the first, nor will it be the last, that gang members, gang leaders have somebody in their cell that may or may not be this, that, or third. But usually when that happens, they are putting in work. And when I say putting in work, I don't mean that. The obvious thing that probably jumped into some of y'all mind, get your minds out the gutter. I'm talking about that dope, that bag. You feel what I'm saying? So, when the rumors started to float, now the gang leader, he's on the defense. Because now when they go to the meetings, he's having to answer these questions from some of the members saying, what's going on with Tim? Why did you let the boy move in with you? He was in the pond. He could have stayed where he was at. You getting too close to him and this, that, and the third. Now, here's the thing. Even though you're head of a gang, you still got to answer, man, the questions of your members, man. And if they start to lose confidence in you, then they might want some different leadership, and then they'll start to undermine your authority and get you knocked on out the way. You feel me? Because everybody answers to somebody. That's just how it goes. So here's the scenario. So Tim, he's on the campaign. He's trying to convince individuals that he's not what they say he is. It's just what it is. But the gang leader is on the verge of putting him out. So Tim, he had been working on some shadow boxing in the cell. He ain't never hit nobody in his life, ever. But I told you he's physically fit, he's cut up. If he got some power there if he learned how to use it right. So he asked the game, he said, man, what if I knock dude out, man? I'm going to get that dude and I'm going to settle this once and for all, right? Because I ain't going to have people running around here thinking this and thinking that about me, right? So the gang leader looked at him, he said, man, you knocking somebody out ain't going to change nothing, but it will help. It will help. So look, now Tim ain't never been in no fight, so it ain't like he going to call dude out. He going to steal on him. You know what I'm saying? He going to steal on him. So they go to the chow hall one day. They up in the chow hall, and one of the Buddha bandits, he got his head turned. He talking crazy to somebody. And I'm talking about as soon as he turned around, I'm talking about solid to the jaw, goes to sleep. Tim standing over and said, man, you keep my name out your mouth, boy. Then he spits on him. Now, let me tell you something. Now, I've always said, when situations happen, everybody's observing how that outcome is going to be, you know what I'm saying, so they can determine how you're going to do your time, right? Listen to me, because everything happens, you know what I'm saying, in a vacuum in here. So when Tim knocks out this Buddha bandit, now this Buddha bandit, I ain't trying to make this a race thing, but everything is a race thing in a lot of situations in here. But listen to me, this Buddha bandit, he was a black dude. Tim, white dude. But Tim in the cell with a black dude that's a gang member. And when Tim knocked him out, he spit on him. Oh my goodness, he spit on the brother. While the brother laying out on the ground there, the area nation, they over in the corner, they watching, they see it. And they liked it. But then they got a little questions too, because they don't know if the boy's gay or not. You know what I'm saying? They don't know. But then they just watched him knock somebody out, a black dude, and then spit on him and tell him, keep my name out your mouth. What's really going on? Now, see, Tim, he digging what the move was. He knew it was going to happen. He digging what it was, but he didn't dig it that he spit on him. So when they get back to the cell, Tim asked him, he said, man, what you spit on him for? He said, man, it just felt like the right thing to do. So right then and there, Tim smacked him. He said, man, don't let me see you do nothing like that ever again, man. Ever again. And he said, that 50 that you've been paying me, double that up now. It's 100. It's 100. And you can stay. You got a problem with that? So Tim looking at him, eyes wide, like a $50. He said, no, I ain't got no problem with that. But he was broken. It crushed him because he thought him and the gang leader had started to build a bond. He thought that they had become friends. But then here he was, he done smacked him and he wanted to swing back, but he was afraid. He didn't know how it was going to turn out. He was scared. He was scared to do it. So he agreed to the terms to pay him 100, and he laid down in the bed and he didn't know what to do. And he laid down and he got to thinking about, what his friend Sam had said. Survive the environment, man. You got to survive the environment. And that's all he kept thinking about while he lay there and then he fell asleep. How am I going to survive this environment? And he thought about it and thought about it. And he woke up the next morning. You know how sometimes you be laying in the bed and you sleep, but you got this thought on your mind and you're really not all the way asleep? That's how he was that whole night. Because he was a little spooked because he didn't know what the gang leader was going to do. So the next morning when they got up, both of them got up, and after they finished washing their face and brushing their teeth and all this and that, before the police popped the door, Tim told him, he said, man, why'd you do that, man? With tears in his eyes, he looked at the gang and he said, man, why did you smack me, man? Now, the gang leader's looking at him because he don't know where his mind is at. And he told him, he said, man, you spit on a black man in the penitentiary. He said, man, I don't mess with dude, period. I don't mess with him. But see, when you spit on a black man, you got to be mindful of the people that's watching. See, you got white supremacists that was in that kitchen and they saw that. And now they might think that's cool to do because we didn't rush you. We didn't do nothing to you because we should have rushed you when you spit on that brother, no matter what you did to him. Knock him out, say keep my name out your mouth, and keep it moving. But when you spit on him, you crossed the line. And now, I'm suspect of you, man. I'm wondering, because you said it felt like the right thing to do. I'm wondering where that came from. I'm wondering where that came from. When you spit on another man, that's the worst thing you could do. You might well smack him with an open hand. See, Tim was getting an education in things that he had no idea that was going on. He wasn't raised like that. He wasn't raised to have to deal with the different issues that go on in the race relations in this country. He didn't know anything about that, but he was getting a mouthful right then and there. And he was trying to process it because it didn't make sense to him. Then none of it makes sense to him. So now he looked at the gang leader and he said, do you want me to move out? And the gang leader looked at him. He said, do you want to move out? He said, no. He said, then we good. He said, but why I got to pay you more? He said, because I'm taxing you for what you did. And Tim looked at him. He said, no, you ain't taxing. You taking advantage of me. So the gang leader stood up. And he said, what you going to do about it? He said, ain't nothing I can do about it. But I'm letting you know, man, I know you taking advantage of me. So they stared there and they looked at each other for a minute. And then the officer popped the door. Clack, clack. And Tim said, man, I got to go to work. And he walked out. Now the gang leader, he stayed in the cell for a minute. He was thinking about what Tim had said to him. And he thought about, he was the one that got in Tim's business. He was the one that wanted to see Tim stand up for himself. And now, Tim was standing up for himself. And he liked that. But he didn't want to give that money back either. He didn't want Tim to see him as somebody that would go back on what he said. So right then and there, he decided that he was going to take the money, but he wasn't going to keep the money. He was going to put that up. And if him and Tim stayed friends throughout this thing, he was going to give that money to him when he left. But he wasn't going to ever tell Tim about that, not until the day came, if they stayed friends. It was always, you know what I'm saying, when you're dealing with people in the penitentiary, there's always a clause in the contract that they can get out of it and end up messing you around. So that's how, you know what I'm saying, the gang leader was going to do it right. So every month, Tim had to drop it off. And he was mad as all get out. But he got over it because he had saved up a nice piece of change. He had saved up a nice piece of change. So, time moved on. Tim gets approached by the Aryan Nation. Y'all knew it was coming. Y'all knew it was coming. They waited one day while he was in the hallway mopping and buffing the floor, right? And wasn't nobody else around, so they sent one of them to holler at him. And they told him, you ain't got to keep hanging around those kind. Tim looked at him and said, man, I don't want to rap. They said, the day will come when you will want to rap, and we here for you. Just remember that. So Tim looked at him, and he thought about it. But he knew better, because it could get real tricky. Because other issues were still in play. Other issues were still going on, and he didn't want to do anything to add to all the other drama that was going on. But he makes a mistake. He makes a mistake. And he plays his hand in a way that he was not supposed to. And he's learning that he better get his house in order to survive the situation that he put himself in by coming to prison. And you're going to have to listen to the next episode to figure out, so you can hear what mistake he made that put him in jeopardy. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.